Hello and welcome to today's practice. I'm Hannah, I'll be your guide today. We're going to break down plank pose or Vasisthasana in Sanskrit. And this one is a really great alternative to doing, let's say, crunches. We're really using stabilization muscles that help stabilize our spine, those deep core muscles in a side plank, just like you do in doing crunches. But crunches quite often can aggravate shoulders and neck. I guess though, in a side plank, sometimes our wrists are also not super happy. So I'm going to give you a couple of different options that you might like to work through and just sort of feel into in your own practice. You can integrate these. So if you're thinking about a side plank, we're thinking one hand to the ground, and perhaps we're thinking legs nice and long, and perhaps then the arm reaching up. But let's start by just warming up those wrists. So there's many different sort of wrist warm-ups that you could do. If you're following along, you might just start to rotate those wrists one way and then rotate them the other way. That's when I start to notice my little clicks and creaks in my own body. Let's go ahead and interlace fingers and just push the hands away. Breathe into that space. I'm just going to do a few flicks of those fingers. And then let's come on to hands and knees as our starting position. So we can keep our knees to the ground even in a side plank. What I'm going to do here is pivot on my right knee and turn the right foot off behind me like a kickstand. So I'm then going to bring my right hand so that it becomes aligned with my right knee and extend the left leg. So this is a great option that I will often offer within a practice, a group class scenario that you might like to think about. Now, a few things you want to think here in terms of alignment. I'm trying to spread my fingers out on the earth with that right hand. Right wrist is roughly aligned with the right knee, and then that right knee is roughly aligned to the inner center arch of your left foot. And for me, I'm going to have the left toes kind of parallel with the edge of the mat. Then think about a little tilt of the pelvis. You want to stack left hip on top of the right for your plank. And then that's the same with the shoulders, similar to a half moon shape, if you're familiar with that one in our balance. So I'm going to keep left shoulder roughly on top of that right shoulder, left hip on top of the right. So there's a very light squeeze of the glutes here. It's very slight control of pushing the hips forwards, and then perhaps you'll reach that top arm up. So this is a really great, quite simple, easy one to get to, but this might be super uncomfy for that wrist still. So another option here would actually be to drop down onto your side and have the knees together. So still a great option. We've got that hand out to the side, and perhaps this is going to be our variation of plank. You're still having to use a little bit of control here because you're not kind of sinking in. I don't want to drop down in this. I want to keep a little lift here. I'm going to come back to that little lift in a moment with those other variations, because this is what is quite essentially needed for our side plank. This little lift. So you might be with me with the hips on the ground, just feeling into that little lift. We want to add that back into our supported plank with the knee to the earth. See how that feels. So instead of kind of dumping the hips down, we want to think actually lifting up, and the rib cage slightly lifting up there if we can. I'm going to do the same thing in my full variation of plank. Keeping the legs long and straight. Instead of dumping everything downwards, I want to think lifting up. So there's a little light squeeze of the glutes, imagining that the hips are being drawn up towards the ceiling there. We've still got that lovely stack of that left hip on top of the right, left shoulder on top of the right. I'm just going to swap it over to the other side so that we get a little bit of practice through both sides. And I can give you a couple more tips from that second side. So I'm going to come back into full side plank, Vasisthasana. So both legs are long, and you've got options with your feet here. It could be that you've got one foot in front of the other. Usually I'll take the top hip foot forwards and then the other one back, but it could be the other way around. Just avoid everything tipping down. We want to still see if we can stack, but you'll see that I'm a little bit rounded. I'm not in a poker straight shape. I am actually lifted. I'm thinking a little light squeeze of those thighs together. That's okay. I want to find a little bit of space through the upper ribs there. If you feel like you can, you're going to keep the bottom foot, the left foot on the bottom. I swapped over here, so now I've got the other foot going, and then the right foot on top. Now if you go for that option, don't let the heels rest. Slightly lift the back, the top heel up off the bottom heel. So super strong legs, light squeeze of the glutes. Maybe you will feel comfortable to turn the gaze, but that might be the part that makes you tumble and fall. So remember, you could have the bottom knee to the earth. Perhaps you feel into that variation. You could even go with the option of hips to the earth. You're just not collapsing down. You're thinking gently lifting. If you find that you cannot get your wrists on the ground at all, then of course, forearm to the earth. And we can do all of these shapes apart from the one with the knee to the ground, with the forearm to the earth as well. And when I bring the forearm down, I want to have the elbow straight underneath the shoulder. And it could be that the bottom hand is sort of more of a right angle there. I'm going to come back to long legs. Doesn't matter which foot's in front. Maybe you're trying one foot on top of the other. And feeling into all those really deep inner core muscles, stabilizing here. And obviously some work through the chest and the shoulders too. And coming on out. So maybe you're just going to practice a few of those different variations. Don't feel that you have to integrate all of them into your practice, but you can see that there are some building blocks that you can work through. And you'll be able to find another practice that has side plank, Vasisthasana integrated into that flow as well.